Today's focus is on a trio of really powerful concepts from the Course: suffering, happiness, and God's will.
We're going to look at how these ideas are all interconnected.
And how they can be applied in a practical way in our daily lives. Would you mind reading Lesson 102 for us?
Of course. You do not want to suffer. You may think it buys you something, and may still believe a little that it buys you what you want. Yet this belief is surely shaken now, at least enough to let you question it, and to suspect it really makes no sense. It is not gone as yet, but lacks the roots that once secured it tightly to the dark and hidden secret places of your mind. Today we try to loose its weakened hold still further, and to realize that pain is purposeless, without a cause, and with no power to accomplish anything. It cannot purchase anything at all. It offers nothing and does not exist. And everything you think it offers you is lacking in existence like itself. You've been slave to nothing. Be you free today to join the happy will of God. For several days we will continue to devote our longer practice periods to exercises planned to help you reach the happiness God's will has placed in you. Here is your home, and here your safety is. Here is your peace, and here there is no fear. Here is salvation. Here is rest at last. Begin the longer practice periods with this acceptance of God's will for you. I share God's will for happiness for me, and I accept it as my function now. Then seek this function deep within your mind, for it is there, awaiting but your choice. You cannot fail to find it when you learn it is your choice, and that you share God's will. Be happy, for your only function here is happiness. You have no need to be less loving to God's Son than He whose love created Him as loving as Himself. Besides these hourly 5-minute rests, pause frequently today to tell yourself that you have now accepted happiness as your one function, and be sure that you are joining with God's will in doing this.
That's quite a statement, isn't it? To say, you do not want to suffer. It seems to go against so much of what we experience as humans. We seem drawn to suffering at times, even clinging to it.
You're right. It's a direct challenge to the way we often think and behave. But the Course suggests that this desire for suffering, this clinging to pain, comes from a misidentification with the ego.
So we're essentially buying into the ego's thought system when we embrace suffering.
Exactly. The ego wants us to believe that suffering has value, that it's a necessary part of life, maybe even a form of atonement for our perceived sins or shortcomings.
We have to earn our happiness through suffering.
Yes, but Lesson 102 starts to dismantle that belief.
Yeah.
It says that the idea that suffering has some sort of buying power is an illusion.
And an illusion that starts to lose its grip as we awaken to a different reality. And that reality is where happiness is our natural state.
According to the Course, yes. When it says pain is purposeless, without a cause, and with no power to accomplish anything, it's striking at the heart of that egoic structure that tries to find meaning in pain.
It's telling us that suffering in the realm of true reality has no real function, no inherent existence.
It's a construct of the mind, a thought.
So seeking happiness isn't just about what feels good then. It's about aligning with what the Course says is fundamentally real, true about who we are.
Exactly. The Course says our true nature is happiness, joy, love. And that's God's will for us.
I love that. And it ties back to the lesson's title. I share God's will for happiness for me.
It's about recognizing and accepting that happiness is not something we have to earn or strive for. It's already within us. It's our birthright.
And the lesson puts it so powerfully. Be happy, for your only function here is happiness. That's a pretty bold statement. And it might feel jarring for someone who's really entrenched in suffering.
You're absolutely right. But it's also incredibly liberating, because it shifts our whole perspective on our purpose in life.
It's not about enduring hardship or sacrificing ourselves. It's about recognizing that we are creations of love, and our very nature is happiness.
And that accepting our function as happiness, is a conscious choice.
A choice that opens the door to inner peace and safety.
It does.
Let's talk about how these principles play out in real life.
Okay.
I'm thinking about Allison. Her story is a great example of someone struggling with emotional pain.
Right. Allison was going through a really tough time, a bad breakup.
And she found herself caught in a cycle of self-doubt and isolation, feeling like unhappiness was just her destiny.
Her story is so relatable. So many people get stuck in that kind of thinking. The ego loves to create a narrative of suffering, especially around events like breakups.
And it can feel so real, so convincing, like this pain is all there is.
Absolutely. But even in the midst of all that pain, there's still that underlying desire for happiness, for connection. It might be buried, but it's there.
Allison was clinging to her pain, maybe not consciously, but she was holding on to the belief that it was justified, or that it would eventually lead to some kind of resolution.
Right. It's like she was trying to make sense of her suffering, to find meaning in it, which is what the ego wants us to do.
But then she started to apply the principles from the Course, specifically the idea that her emotional pain was purposeless.
And that was a game changer for her. Recognizing that her pain wasn't serving any positive function allowed her to question the whole story she had built around it.
So she was able to step back from those negative emotions and see them for what they were, thoughts, not truth.
Yes. And that created space for a new choice, a conscious decision to turn towards happiness.
And that's where the affirmation from Lesson 102 comes in. I share God's will for happiness for me, and I accept it as my function now.
Such a powerful affirmation. It's an antidote to the ego's negativity, a direct declaration of her true nature, her purpose.
She's claiming her birthright as a creation of love.
Yes. And it's not about denying her feelings. It's about recognizing that those feelings don't define her or her future.
It's about shifting her focus inward to her own inner strength.
And recognizing that happiness is an internal choice. It's not dependent on external factors, like a relationship.
And the results speak for themselves. Allison's whole relationship with her emotions changed. She wasn't identified with the pain anymore.
It didn't have the same power over her.
And she started to experience more self-acceptance, more inner peace.
And a more fulfilling life. It's a beautiful example of how these principles can be applied in a practical way.
Absolutely. Now, Brian's story is a little different. He was dealing with chronic physical pain, back pain that he'd been struggling with for years.
Years of pain, imagine that.
And it took a huge toll on him, emotionally, mentally. He became depressed, anxious. He isolated himself from others.
And he started to believe that this pain defined him, that it was his lot in life.
We see this a lot, don't we? This belief that suffering is just part of the human experience, something we have to accept, especially when it comes to physical pain.
It's so easy to fall into that trap, to start identifying with our pain, to believe that it's who we are.
But for Brian, the turning point came when he realized that he didn't actually want to be in pain.
That seems obvious, right?
No.
But sometimes we have to remind ourselves, because the ego can be so sneaky. It can convince us that we need our suffering, that it serves a purpose.
So when Brian acknowledged that he didn't want to suffer, it challenged the ego's hold on him.
It forced him to see the truth, that clinging to the belief that his pain had value was keeping him stuck.
And that realization opened him up to the possibility of experiencing peace and even joy, even in the presence of pain.
It allowed him to separate his essence from his physical sensations, to understand that he wasn't defined by his pain.
And the affirmation from Lesson 102 played a key role for him too. I share God's will for happiness for me, and I accept it as my function now. How did that affirmation support Brian's journey?
It gave him a tool, a way to shift his focus away from the pain and toward the truth of who he is, a being of love and joy. It wasn't about pretending the pain wasn't there. It was about choosing to align himself with a deeper reality.
And he used introspection and meditation to connect with that inner peace, to tap into that source of joy within him.
He made a conscious effort to cultivate happiness, even amidst the physical discomfort.
And just like with Allison, he started to experience a shift. The pain didn't control him in the same way anymore. He didn't identify with it as strongly.
He was able to create a space between himself and the pain.
And that space allowed him to experience more peace, more freedom.
And a more fulfilling life, even with the chronic pain. It's truly inspiring.
It is. Both Allison and Brian's stories highlight the power of choosing happiness, of aligning with God's will, even when we're facing challenges, whether those challenges are emotional or physical.
And it all comes back to those core ideas we talked about at the beginning. The illusory nature of suffering, our inherent desire for happiness, and the power of conscious choice.
We have the ability to choose happiness, to align ourselves with God's will, no matter what our circumstances may be. It's a powerful message, and it's one that I hope resonates with you today.
It's a message that has the potential to transform our lives, if we let it.
So as you go about your day, I invite you to reflect on this, on the idea that pain is ultimately purposeless, and that your true function, your essence, is happiness. How might that understanding shift your perceptions, your choices, your experience of life?
It's a question that I hope will lead you towards a deeper sense of inner peace and joy. And as always, we invite you to share any comments, questions, or experiences related to the course that this deep dive has sparked for you. You can reach us at ACIM at theworldharmonyproject.org. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time.
Take care.